Just math, y'all. We are going to go over section 5.2 and 5.3, Factoring Trinomials. Okay, just a refresher here. Remember, there are 4 types of factoring we're going to do: GCF and grouping we did in 5.1, and today we're going to look at trinomial factoring, 5.2 and 5.3. All right, so let's get into factoring trinomials. Okay, so remember, this is a reversal of multiplication. And so let's look at the multiplication problem. This is what our answer is going to look like. Our answers are going to look like something that we would FOIL. So we're kind of unfoiling, and that's actually one of the methods that people use to do this. So we're going to FOIL this real quick, and I want you to think about the pattern. Let's look at what we get when we get our answers. Okay, so when we multiply this, x times x is x to the second, and then x times negative 10 is a negative 10x, and then 3 times x is a plus 3x, and then 3 times 10, negative 10, is negative 30. Okay, so that's the multiply part, but then you remember you have to combine your like terms, and you do a negative 10 plus 3, and you get a negative 7x minus 30, bring down the x squared. Okay, so now what we're doing now is we are reversing this, so that we're going to be looking at a trinomial, because that's what this is. And we have to come up with the 2 binomials that we started with. So let's don't cheat. Let's kind of cover this up. Okay. So let's pretend we can't see that. Okay. All right. And so first thing, remember, this is our first thing. Where did that come from? Well, that came from just doing x times x, didn't it? That just came from doing x times x. So x here and an x here. Okay. Now let's look at this the last number. Where did this number come from? Well, that came from 3 times 10. Well, this number also came from 3 times 10. Or, well, not 3 times 10, but from 3 and 10. So these 2 numbers are 3 and 10. One of them's positive, one of them's negative, right? So we get these 2 numbers from those. Now, 5 times 6 gives me 30, doesn't it? I could get 30 from 5 times 6. Oops, that's not what I wanted. I could get 30 from 5 times 6, and I could get 30 from 3 times 10. But see, the 7 comes from the 3 and the 10. Okay? And so that's how I know it's not 5 and 6. These 2 numbers multiply to give me 30. These 2 numbers that I'm looking for, the 3 and the 10, are going to multiply to give me 30. And technically it's a negative 30. But when I put them together using addition, I'm going to get a negative 7. And the 5 and the 6 wouldn't do that. It's only the 10 and the 3, and it's technically a negative 10 and a positive 30. So just looking at this number, I look at what it breaks down into, the factors of 30 that will give me the 7 in the middle. And so that would give me the negative 10 and the positive 3. And that's kind of what's going on here. We kind of look at the pattern that happened. Where did this come from? Where did that come from? How did we reverse this? Because when we multiplied, we got this. But see, now we're going to be looking at a trinomial and have to go backwards. And so this one, where did it come from? It came from x times x. And then the last in the middle, those came from the same numbers. The 7 came from the 10 and 3, and the 30 came from the 10 and 3. It's just one came from adding the 10 and 3, excuse me, the negative 10 and 3, and one came from multiplying the negative 10 and 3. And so that's what we're going to be studying. Okay, now I can summarize this pattern for you pretty easily on the next slide. Okay, are we ready? Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so here's what we found, is that we have a trinomial where the first number is 1. This number right here is 1. And that's what we're looking at. This one is 1, the A. We call that our A number. We've got 3 numbers in our trinomial. And notice the pattern. We've got an x squared, then we have a plain x, and then we have something with no x. Right, so make sure you study that the problem is going to look like this. And the A is going to be 1, right? Because we also have to learn when A is not 1. Right? Now we learned that when this x and this x, remember this is our answer, this is our problem, and we see x squared and we say, that's going to be an x and an x. X times x. All right? And then we see these other two. And from the last one we saw that the C, there were 2 numbers that we needed that multiplied to give me that guy. I need 2 numbers for that guy. And then the thing was that those same 2 numbers had to add up to give me B. And that's where we're going to use, that's the pattern. All right, so we're going to do this for each problem. So now let's watch. And I said here, see a factors chart? I've got a factors chart I'm going to show you. I'm going to switch over to it in just a second. So let's look at this and see what we've got here. Okay, so now this problem right here, the first one, I know the x squared is going to give me an x times an x. All right, so now this is my C and this is my B. So now what I'm going to look for, I got to look for 2 numbers that multiply to give me 16 that are going to add up to give me 8. And I've got to look for these numbers. Now some of you may know these from your multiplication facts already, but everybody is going to be emailed a factors chart. And I need you to multiply that out. Multiply that out. I need you to print that out. So let me show you your factors chart. I'm going to switch to another place on my computer. There's the factors chart. Now I need 2 numbers that multiply to give me 16. So now look down the column and you'll find 16 is 1 times 16, 2 times 8, and 4 times 4. They're right there. And this factors chart, it goes all the way to 100, right? But we're just looking at the 16 right now because that was the number we needed. And so our numbers are going to be 4 and 4 because 4 times 4 gives me 16 and 4 plus 4 give me 8. And that's a positive 4 times a positive 4 gives me a positive 16 and a positive 4 plus a positive 4. So that's the answer. Now I can check this by FOIL. I can just multiply it back out and I'll get what I answered. X times x is x squared. Plus 4x and plus 4x, which is 8x. And I can check it. Let's do another one. All right. All right, so I've got the x and the x. Now look at the 24. I need 2 numbers. They're going to multiply to give me a negative 24. And those same 2 numbers have got to add up to give me a positive 5. All right, so now I'm going to go to my factors page. I'm going to look for 24. Right, and I see 24. I have the numbers 1 or 24. Does that add up to 5? No. 2 and 12. Does that add to 5? No. I have 3 and 8. Does that add to 5? Oh, well, kind of, yeah, because one of them is going to be negative, right? So technically it's add or subtract to give you 5. Yep. Add or subtract to give you 5 would be 3 and 8. 4 and 6 don't add or subtract to give you 5. They give you 10. So 3 and 8, add or subtract to give you 5. So those are the numbers I'm looking for. So let's go back to our problem. Okay, so it's 3 and 8. All right, but it's got to make the right number. It's 3 and 8. It's got to be a negative 24. And it's got to be a positive 5. So to get a positive 5, it's got to be a negative 3. Here we go. And that's my answer. Minus 3. Or you could do a plus 8 minus 3. Doesn't matter the order. And that's my answer. Let's look at this next one. We're going to do the a and the a, because that's the a squared. And now the 72, I need two numbers. They're going to multiply to give me a negative 72. And then they're going to add to give me, what number is that? That's a negative 1. And so we're going to go to our chart and go look at 72 on my chart. So let's go to my chart and find 72. All right, and I need the two numbers that are going to add or subtract to give you 1. Right? Add or subtract the pair of numbers that's going to add or subtract to give you 1. And that's going to be 9 and 8, or 8 and 9. So those are my numbers, 8 and 9, and one of them's going to be negative. Okay, if I do 8 minus 9, I get the negative 1. So that's going to be plus 8 and a minus 9. And that's my answer. You can check it. All right. I'm not going to use my chart this time. We'll see if you can go to your times tables and do it. I need two numbers that are going to multiply to give me a positive 9 that are going to add to give me a negative 10. This one's a little trickier. So what multiplies to give you positive 9? Well, you've got 1 times 9 and you got 3 times 3. Okay, so it's got to be 1 and 9. 1 and 9, does that make a negative 10? Yes, it does. It's a negative 1 and a negative 9 make negative 10, and a negative 1 times a negative 9 makes a positive 9. So it's a negative 1 and a negative 9. You got to be careful of your signs. Be careful of your signs, and that's your answer for that one. All right. So now, practice those a lot. This time we're going to throw in a combo problem. Combo problem, I'm not ready for a combo. Sure you are. Combo problem. First thing we're going to do is we're going to find a GCF. Then we're going to do our trinomial. So now if we look to see if there's a GCF, and there is. It's a 2. So 2 is a GCF. And so I'm going to do my GCF. And so if I divide that, I have x to the second plus 3x minus 4. Okay, so that's my GCF. I'm going to bring the 2 back down, and now I'm going to do my trinomial. All right, now I'm going to do the trinomial. The x and the x go here, and then I have to do my thought. So two numbers that multiply to give me negative 4, they're going to add to give me 3. Okay, so I've got to make negative 4 and add to give you 3. So how about 4 and 1? How about 4 and negative 1? Again, if you got negatives in your problem, you need to look for those negative signs. And so 4 minus 1 for negative. So it's a positive 4 and a negative 1. And that's my answer right there. And the GCF just sits out front. Okay, let's do the next one. GCF on this one. GCF of my numbers is going to be 5. For my variance, it's going to be an n. Okay, and so when I divide that out, I get n to the second minus 6n plus 5. Okay, I'm just going to bring that down. All right, I know it's an n and an n, and the 5. two numbers that's going to multiply to give me a positive 5 and add to give me a negative 6. Well, what multiplies to give you 5? Well, it's just 1 and 5, isn't it? But how do I get a negative 6? Remember, a negative 1 times a negative 5 gives you a positive 5, and a negative 1 plus a negative 5 gives me a negative 6. Put a negative 1 and a negative 5. So there's my answer. All right. Stop the video and see if you can do these. I'm going to finish them up really fast. So my GCF is 4r to the second. That's going to give me with r squared minus 4r minus 5. Okay. Bring down the, get ready to factor. I have an r and an r. I need two numbers that are going to multiply to give me negative 5. That's that one. That have to add up to give me negative 4. All right, so 5 and 1 again. 5 and 1 again is going to be a negative 5 and a positive 1. Negative 5 and positive 1. I always do my signs last. Get the numbers and then I do my signs. All right, last one. I know I have a negative GCF and I have an x to the third GCF. And so now what do I have? I have an x to the second minus x plus 6. Okay, so now I'm going to bring down my GCF. Okay. I know the x squared came from x and x. All right, so now I need two numbers. They're going to multiply to give me 6. They're going to add to give me, wait a minute, that's a negative 6. Multiply to give me negative 6. They're going to add to give me a negative 1. Multiply to give me negative 6. Add to give me a negative 1. All right. How about a negative 3 and a positive 2? Negative 3 and positive 2. And that's my answer. Okay? All right. This is tough, guys. It's just math, y'all. Keep trying. You can do it. It is just math.